Do you like this?
It stunks.
Do you like this?
It stinks.
Aha! I tricked you. This is old music. This music is old. Hi, my needle drops. Anthony Fantano here, internet's busiest music nerd. And review time, Big K.R.I.T., live from the underground. Big K.R.I.T. is a Mississippi rapper who's been putting the South back on the map recently in terms of hip-hop, and not for bass-heavy, hooky club tunes or trap rap, but instead with a modernized version of the catchy, soulful, and poetic sounds of some of the best Southern hip-hop artists out there, like Outkast and Goodie Mob and UGK. K.R.I.T. has kind of perfected his own sound inspired by these influences with 3 mixtapes he's released over the past few years. He fills his lyrics with his personality and his passions, like, yes, cars and girls, but also family, the trials and tribulations of making it, his Southern heritage, and poverty. And K.R.I.T. is a producer as well, always writing his own instrumental, which has only made him sound even more unique in contemporary hip-hop. And he's not afraid to sing on his tracks either, and he does it well. On top of all that, Big K.R.I.T. is usually pretty meticulous when it comes to assembling an entire album. You're not going to get a disjointed assembly of singles from this guy. He's got his intimate tracks, his party tracks, his conscious tracks, his love songs, and he makes sure to transition them all into one another in a very tasteful way, really gives his releases the feel of a journey. Now this is Big K.R.I.T.'s major label debut, live from the underground. And even though with this album he's sort of hitting it big, obviously with the title, he's still kind of looking to maintain his underdog image. He still wants to be the Big K.R.I.T. that fans followed up until this point, but this is a commercial record. This is a major label debut. All bets are off. And change does come from a lot of directions on this album. To start, the production. There are a lot of new additions on this album, from the really glitchy effects and the female narrator that kind of starts the LP off, the sound effects and the really short skits that kind of bring one track to another at some points. There are horn sections on here, guitar solos, harmonica solo, string sections and piano, lots of guest singers, and some chorus vocals too. Overall, this album brings K.R.I.T.'s usual mix of a very smooth, melodic and soulful tracks and hard-hitting, hyped up and jittery, spicy Southern hip-hop tracks as well, but with just a little bit more oomph, a little more sound. And he definitely uses his label affiliation now to bring in some interesting guests. Canadian R&B singer Melanie Fiona, Anthony Hamilton, another singer, as well as blues legend B.B. King, and some Southern hip-hop forefathers and influences as well on here, like Bun B and Ludacris, which Big K.R.I.T. has collaborated with before, 8Ball and MJG too. A lot of doors are open right now for Big K.R.I.T. with this LP, and he's taking full advantage of them. And even though this album, by a long shot, is not the first time he's ever brought a collaborator onto a track to add something new, add something different, I'm not sure if every new sound on this album goes over all that well. The track Cool to Be Southern has these horn sections that feel okay. They unfortunately don't really bring the thrill that you would expect from a horn section, even as they are soloing underneath K.R.I.T.'s verses. And if I had to put my finger on a radio single for this LP, it's gotta be Money on the Floor. And it's a really well-produced track with some glistening synths and burbling bass lines. However, lyrically, the song doesn't really add up to much more than just a really tame strip club track. None of the lyrics on this track really grab me outside of a 25 Lighters reference as being very funny or very catchy or thought-provoking. And as far as the handful of songs on here that have R&B singers on them go, I just really do not care for a single R&B hook on this album. And I have to kind of single out the Anthony Hamilton track. I just did not care for his singing style on that song. It kind of borders on like parody for me, with him singing in this really kind of robust voice about coming home strong and I'm hydroplaned complaining. That's another moment I didn't really care for. Now, despite all of my complaints, I do think Big K.R.I.T. writes some of his best songs ever on this album, without question. The album's first two singles, I Got This and Yeah, That's Me, are stellar. Both could have easily slipped into one of his past two tapes, but feel completely re-energized, new, and fresh. He's got these energetic chants, this really hyped up flow, and I love the really detailed and just subtle vocal samples playing in the background of I Got This. That is the kind of layering that I expect from a Big K.R.I.T. instrumental. Really impressive stuff. These two tracks are essentially just Big K.R.I.T. fight songs where you just cannot help but cheer him on. The piano, the vocal, the strings on the song Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and the story as well are breathtaking. K.R.I.T. basically talking about his father and relating his difficulties as a parent to the difficulties Big K.R.I.T. may face if he were to become one. And from the marching snare drum to the really unique melody that leads that track, it is just a great song. I'm loving the live instrumentation on this track. I wish more songs on here featured it if they were to be this powerful. I love the song Praying Man, which features B.B. King. His voice on that track feels so grainy and eerie. I love the forlorn humming on the track. It's just a really moody instrumental. And Big K.R.I.T. gives this LP a really smooth finish with the last track, with him singing quite a bit, a lot like the song Highs and Lows from Return of Forever, but with way more sounds, harmonica and guitar soloing. You know, overall for me, this is a relatively solid listen. There are some moments on here that clearly move in a more commercial direction, but not so far that they ruin the album. Really just kind of make it slightly underwhelming in some moments. It's kind of feeling a strong 6 to a light 7 on this LP. I'm also feeling sweaty, but what did you guys think of it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Why? And what should I review next? Anthony Fantano, live from the underground, forever.